England in the 16th century was a realm on the cusp of transformation. The winds of change were blowing across Europe, carrying with them the ideas of the Renaissance and the Reformation. This period of intellectual and religious upheaval left an indelible mark on England, a country grappling with its own internal struggles and a king consumed by the desire for a male heir. It is against this backdrop of shifting alliances, religious debates and political intrigue that the story of Henry VIII's son unfolds. Henry VIII, desperate for a son to secure the future of his dynasty, eagerly awaited the birth of his child by his third wife, Jane Seymour. The king's previous marriages, first to Catherine of Aragon and then to Anne Boleyn, had been tumultuous, marked by annulments, executions and a dramatic break from the Roman Catholic Church. Henry's actions had sent shockwaves through English society, leaving the country religiously divided and politically unstable. The birth of a male heir was of paramount importance to Henry. The arrival of the long-awaited son was not simply a private matter for the royal family, it was a national event of great political significance. England was no longer a devoutly Catholic country, unquestioningly following the dictates of the Pope. Henry VIII's pursuit of a male heir had become an all-consuming obsession, shaping his every decision and driving him to extreme measures. His first marriage to Catherine of Aragon, while initially a political alliance, had produced only one surviving child, Mary. Despite Catherine's many qualities, her inability to provide a male heir led Henry on a path that would forever alter the course of English history. Anne Boleyn, a woman of wit and ambition, caught the king's eye. However, his desire for Anne went beyond mere infatuation. She represented the possibility of a legitimate male heir and a break from the constraints of his first marriage. Henry's pursuit of Anne led him to challenge the authority of the Catholic Church, ultimately leading to the English Reformation. In 1533, he annulled his marriage to Catherine and married Anne, much to the outrage of many within England and across Europe. Anne's failure to produce a son sealed her fate. Accused of treason and adultery, she was imprisoned in the Tower of London and executed in 1536. Just days later, Henry married Jane Seymour, a woman of quiet piety who seemed to offer a stark contrast to the fiery Anne Boleyn. Edward Tudor, born into a world of immense expectation and shadowed by tragedy, was a child of destiny. From the moment of his birth, he was surrounded by an atmosphere of power and intrigue, his life inextricably intertwined with the political and religious currents of his time. As the only legitimate son of Henry VIII, Edward was a precious commodity, his well-being paramount to the security of the Tudor dynasty. Every aspect of his life, from his diet to his education, was meticulously planned and overseen. He was raised in an atmosphere of both opulence and isolation, surrounded by courtiers and servants, yet kept at a distance from his father and half-sisters, Mary and Elizabeth. Despite his sheltered upbringing, Edward's early years were not without their own turmoil. The ongoing religious changes initiated by his father continued to divide the country, leading to unrest and rebellion. The political landscape was equally fraught with danger as factions within the court vied for power and influence, their eyes on the young prince as a potential pawn in their games of ambition and intrigue. Edward's education, entrusted to renowned scholars, was designed to mold him into the ideal Renaissance prince. He was tutored in classical languages, history, philosophy and theology, imbibing the humanist ideals that were sweeping across Europe. Edward's education was a matter of national importance. It was understood that the young prince, upon whom the future of the Tudor dynasty rested, needed to be equipped with the knowledge and skills befitting a future king. His education, therefore, was not simply about academic achievement. It was about shaping his character, instilling in him the qualities of a wise, just and learned ruler. To this end, he was provided with the finest tutors available, men renowned for their scholarship and their understanding of statecraft. At the heart of Edward's education was the humanist tradition, a Renaissance movement that emphasized classical learning and the pursuit of knowledge for the betterment of mankind. He was immersed in the works of ancient Greek and Roman philosophers, historians and poets, absorbing their insights into human nature, governance and the nature of virtue. His tutors, recognizing the power of language, ensured that he became fluent in Latin and Greek, enabling him to engage directly with the classical texts that formed the bedrock of his education. Edward's education extended beyond the confines of classical literature. He was also schooled in modern languages, including French, Italian and Spanish, recognizing the increasingly interconnected nature of European politics and diplomacy. His tutors also emphasized the importance of history, both ancient and modern, recognizing that a ruler who understood the past was better equipped to navigate the challenges of the present and the future. The seeds of religious conviction, Edward's early Protestant leanings. Edward's religious upbringing was as carefully curated as his academic studies. Born into a time of great religious upheaval, his father's break from Rome and the subsequent establishment of the Church of England had left the country religiously divided. Edward, as the future supreme head of the Church, was instilled with a strong Protestant identity, his education shaped by theologians who had embraced the doctrines of the Reformation. Edward's religious education went beyond the rote memorization of scripture and catechism. He was encouraged to engage with theological debates, to question traditional doctrines, and to develop his own understanding of faith. His tutors, many of whom had close ties to leading reformers, exposed him to the writings of Martin Luther, John Calvin, and other Protestant thinkers, fostering in him a deep skepticism of papal authority and a belief in the importance of individual conscience. Edward's religious convictions, though still developing, were evident in his writings and actions. He kept a diary, a remarkable document that provides glimpses into the mind of a young king grappling with matters of faith and governance. In its pages, he expressed a strong aversion to Catholic practices which he viewed as superstitious and idolatrous, and he embraced the Protestant emphasis on Scripture as the sole source of religious authority. A world beyond the palace walls. Edward's awareness of national affairs. While Edward's life was largely confined within the walls of various royal palaces, he was not entirely sheltered from the realities of the world beyond. His tutors, recognizing the importance of preparing him for the responsibilities of kingship, ensured that he received regular updates on matters of state. He was kept informed of political developments, economic conditions, and social unrest, fostering in him an awareness of the challenges and opportunities facing his kingdom. Edward's education included regular audiences with ambassadors, diplomats, and visiting dignitaries, providing him with first-hand exposure to the complexities of international relations. He listened attentively as these envoys presented their cases, their elaborate speeches revealing the delicate balance of power that characterized European politics. These encounters fostered in Edward an understanding of England's place in the world, the importance of diplomacy, and the ever-present threat of war. Beyond these formal encounters, Edward's exposure to national affairs was also shaped by the conversations he overheard within the palace walls. The Tudor court was a hotbed of gossip, intrigue, and power struggles, and Edward, despite his youth, was a keen observer of the dynamics between the various factions vying for influence. He witnessed the rise and fall of advisors, the shifting alliances between noble families, and the constant maneuvering for position within the corridors of power. The king's companions' friendships and influences in Edward's youth. Edward's companions and the relationships he formed during his formative years played a crucial role in shaping his character and influencing his worldview. While his interactions with other children were carefully managed by the adults around him, he formed close bonds with a select few. Boys from noble families chosen for their intelligence, character, and potential to serve as future advisors and confidants to the king. Among Edward's closest companions were Barnaby Fitzpatrick, the son of an Irish nobleman, and Thomas Butler, the future Earl of Ormond, also from a prominent Irish family. These friendships reflected the Tudor court's growing interest in integrating the Irish nobility into the English sphere of influence. a policy with far-reaching consequences for the future of Anglo-Irish relations. Edward, through his interactions with Fitzpatrick and Butler, developed an early awareness of the challenges and opportunities presented by Ireland, a land increasingly seen as vital to England's security and prosperity. Edward's friendships extended beyond the sons of nobility. He also formed close bonds with some of his tutors and mentors, men who recognized his intelligence, his thirst for knowledge, and his growing sense of duty. These men, often scholars and reformers themselves, played a crucial role in shaping Edward's intellectual development and his religious convictions. They engaged him in lively debates, challenged his assumptions, and encouraged him to think critically about the world around him. The Boy King and the Lord Protector, Edward VI and the Regency of Edward Seymour. Edward VI ascended to the English throne at the tender age of 9, a boy king thrust into the centre of a court brimming with ambition and intrigue. His youth, while a source of vulnerability, also presented an opportunity for those eager to shape the destiny of the kingdom in his name. The delicate task of governing England during Edward's minority fell upon a Regency Council, a group of powerful nobles and advisors entrusted with the responsibility of guiding the young king and safeguarding the realm until he came of age. Among the members of the Regency Council, one figure quickly rose to prominence: Edward Seymour, Duke of Somerset and the king's uncle. Seymour, a man of considerable ambition and military experience, secured for himself the position of Lord Protector, effectively becoming the most powerful man in England. His appointment, while supported by many within the council, also sowed the seeds of future discord as other ambitious nobles eyed his position with envy and suspicion. Somerset, acutely aware of the challenges facing him, moved swiftly to consolidate his power. He sought to assert his authority over the council, curtailing the influence of rival factions and promoting men loyal to his cause. He recognized that his hold on power depended on maintaining the perception of stability and unity within the Regency government. The Protestant Reformation in Edward's England. A time of radical change, Henry VIII's break from Rome left England religiously divided. Edward VI's reign saw Protestant reforms led by Archbishop Cranmer. The Act of Uniformity in 1549 mandated English language services. Priests were allowed to marry, a radical change. These reforms met resistance, especially in rural areas. The changes led to social unrest and rebellion. The Prayer Book Rebellion and Kett's Rebellion. Challenges to Edward's government. In 1549, social and economic tensions erupted into the Prayer Book Rebellion and Kett's Rebellion, challenging Edward VI's Regency Council. These uprisings exposed the fragility of the Tudor state and Somerset's control. The Prayer Book Rebellion in Cornwall and Devon opposed religious changes. Kett's Rebellion in Norfolk protested economic grievances and enclosure. Both rebellions highlighted the deep divisions within English society. The rebellions of 1549 weakened Somerset's power, emboldening rivals like John Dudley. Dudley, a skilled soldier, seized the opportunity, cultivating alliances and presenting himself as decisive. In October, he engineered Somerset's arrest, accusing him of treason. Dudley then consolidated power, becoming the new leader within the Regency Council. With Somerset removed, John Dudley, Duke of Northumberland, swiftly consolidated power, securing loyalty through titles and reforms. Ambitious and pragmatic, he addressed economic issues and supported the Protestant Reformation. Dudley's influence over young King Edward VI marked a significant shift in the Tudor court. Edward VI's reign coincided with a period of great flux and uncertainty in European politics. The old alliances were shifting, new rivalries were emerging, and the balance of power between the great powers of France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire remained precarious. England, though no longer a dominant force on the continent, was still a player in this complex game of diplomacy and warfare. The war with France, inherited from Henry VIII, continued to drain English resources. Dudley recognized the futility of pursuing a costly and inconclusive conflict. He sought a negotiated settlement with the French, recognizing that peace would allow him to focus on consolidating his hold on power. The Treaty of Boulogne, signed in 1550, formally ended the war with France. Under the terms of the treaty, England agreed to withdraw from Boulogne in exchange for a substantial financial settlement. The treaty extricated England from a costly and unwinnable war, freeing up resources. The peace with France did not signal an end to England's foreign policy challenges. The relationship with Scotland remained a source of concern. The Scots, traditionally allied with France, viewed English attempts to exert influence with suspicion. Dudley sought to counter French influence in Scotland through diplomacy and the occasional show of force. Ireland, a land of ancient traditions and fierce independence, had long been a thorn in the side of English monarchs. Henry VIII declared himself King of Ireland in 1541, aiming to bring Ireland under direct English control. Dudley pursued gradual expansion, promoting English law and customs to erode Irish autonomy. The Protestant Reformation was used to undermine Gaelic Irish culture and consolidate control. As Edward VI entered his teenage years, a shadow fell over his reign, the specter of his own mortality. The young king, never physically robust, began to experience bouts of illness, his constitution seemingly unable to withstand the rigors of court life and the burdens of rule. Rumors of his declining health spread through the court, fueling anxieties about the future of the Tudor dynasty and the stability of the realm. The succession to the English throne was a matter of paramount importance, for the Tudor claim to the crown, though bolstered by Henry VIII's forceful reign, remained vulnerable to challenge. Edward's two half-sisters, Mary and Elizabeth, though declared illegitimate by their father, represented potential claimants to the throne, their very existence a source of concern for those who had benefited from the Tudor dynasty's rise to power. Dudley, acutely aware of the implications of Edward's failing health, found himself at a crossroads. His own position, secured through his control of the young king and the levers of government, would be precarious at best should Edward die without a clear heir. He recognized the need to secure the succession, not only for the good of the realm but also for his own political survival. The succession crisis presented Dudley with a dilemma. He could support the claims of either Mary or Elizabeth, but both options carried significant risks. Mary, a devout Catholic, was deeply unpopular with the Protestant faction that had risen to prominence during Edward's reign. Elizabeth, though raised Protestant, was tainted by her mother's scandalous downfall and her own ambiguous religious views. Dudley, caught between a rock and a hard place, began to contemplate a daring and dangerous plan, one that would have far-reaching consequences for the future of the Tudor dynasty. Edward's unwavering Protestant faith raises questions about his tolerance for differing beliefs. He viewed Catholicism as corrupt and heretical, a threat to England. Edward saw the Pope as the Antichrist and condemned Catholic practices. The Protestant Reformation was, to him, a cosmic struggle between good and evil. Whether Edward's zeal would have led to tyranny remains a matter of debate. Was Edward VI a Tudor monster in the making? His short reign was marked by turmoil, religious strife, and political intrigue. Edward's religious zeal and anti-Catholic stance fueled resentment. His early death spared him the full weight of kingship. What kind of ruler might he have become? Edward VI, a tyrant in the making. Examining the Accusations, was Edward VI a budding despot or a product of his time? His commitment to Protestant reforms led to the destruction of religious images and closure of monasteries. Critics argue this fueled religious intolerance and accusations of tyranny. Edward's belief in his divine right to rule and his youthful certainty led to fears of ruthlessness. His reign's executions, though fewer than his father's, cast a shadow over his legacy. Edward VI's reign was dominated by his Lord Protectors Edward Seymour and John Dudley. Their policies often overshadowed the young king's own influence. Somerset's ambitious reforms and Dudley's pragmatic control defined Edward's rule. The true extent of Edward's personal influence remains a matter of historical debate. To judge Edward VI solely through modern sensibilities is to ignore the historical context in which he lived and ruled. The 16th century was an era of immense upheaval, a time of religious wars, political intrigue, and brutal power struggles. Edward's reign coincided with a pivotal period in English history. The Protestant Reformation was reshaping the religious landscape of the country. To understand Edward VI, we must view him through the lens of his time. If you enjoyed this exploration of Edward VI, please like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating historical content.